Hello and welcome back to HID Productions. I am here with Mark Sabrion. We haven't spoken a while in regards to, a lot of people see it as RCG. It stands for the Restored Church of God. We have some updates. We haven't spoken in a while. When was the last time we spoke?
Hi, Don. Good to see you again. We spoke on April 21st of 2023, and that was part 10 of the Restored Church of God series that doesn't include the talking about cults that we had done also separately with Dennis Deal. And the last part you did was part 11 with Jessica Brown. She was actually there at WCTV studios back on May 1st. So it's been a while since we've had an update. Life goes on. And since then, back at that time, I had 167 articles on the EXRCG website, but now I have 252 as of this week.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
It is quite a bit. And, Restored Church of God and David C. Pack are kind of still up to their old tricks. The EXRCG website now has 25 documented dates just since the last time we spoke. And I am going to share my screen so that you can see.
And the 25 dates mean exactly what for those maybe that are just tuning in?
So Pastor General David C. Pack of the Restored Church of God has declared that he is a prophet. Sometimes he's Elijah the prophet, and he's written about in the Bible throughout the Bible. He's got many titles in the Bible that he claims are him, and so he will teach. He will say he's telling, not foretelling, as a way to get around being a false prophet. He's prophesying, but he's not an inspired preacher. So he will play games with words and language, Greek, Hebrew, and even English, to change the meaning of what it means so he can talk around being a false prophet. So what I have been doing, and one of the reasons I left the Restored Church of God, was that because he would set a date for the return of Jesus Christ, and then the date would fail. And sometimes he would change the date right before he got there, and like, oh, God showed me this and God showed me that, and then he would change the dates again. So I began documenting that before I resigned from the Restored Church of God. I was an employee from December of 2012 to March of 2021. And now on the website, the homepage of exrcg.org, I have been keeping track of the dates. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so people can see what I'm talking about here. Share. There we go. So we have the return of Jesus Christ. The more recent one, the one that's going on right now, is the fulfillment of Daniel's 70 weeks prophecy. People who don't know what that is, it will not be of interest to them, but people who know, Bible readers, Bible students, Christians, and Jews who will know what the 70 weeks prophecy is in the book of Daniel, they'll know what that means. And David C. Pack is now saying that Abib 1, which is the Hebrew month, April 8th, 2024 at 12:03 p.m. Eastern time, which is Jerusalem sunset time at 3 p.m. is when Jesus Christ is going to return. The numbers at the top of the screen, the 1, 7, 1,000, those are the kingdom structures. One of the common questions I get from people that find my YouTube channel, what do those numbers mean on his table? And those are the stages of the kingdom. 1 year, 7 year, 1,000 years. Nope, it's 4 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. Nope, it's 7 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. And he just changed it again yesterday to just 7 and 1,000. So that's kind of more technical.
Now, again, for those maybe that are tuning in, or to remind those that have watched before, where is Jesus specifically returning?
That changes, but mostly Jesus Christ will return to Jerusalem and then travel to Wadsworth. But I noticed that David C. Pack has not been as specific about that recently. Normally, Jesus Christ is coming to the campus in Wadsworth, Ohio, which is right across from the Giant Eagle. So if you happen to be shopping that day, you're going to really see something very special. So Jesus Christ was supposed to return. I've got on my website the 2022 is when I started documenting it. And then last was 2023. And Don, you and I spoke, I think, at the end of April. So yes. May 5th, we discussed May 5th. May 5th didn't happen. So I'm just going to read these dates just for people to get context. This is David C. Pack declaring that some biblical event, whether he called it the 1335, the kingdom to Israel, Jesus Christ's return, these are all dates that he set. May 5th, 18th, 20th, 28th, June 18th, 20th, 24th, July 1st, 3rd, 13th, 18th, 28th, then September 29th, 30th, October 6th, 7th, 16th, and 29th, November 4th, November 5th. I can't even like read through all this with a straight face. December 22nd, December 31st. And then he jumped way into 2025 and used the Hebrew month Abib 1 in 2025. Then he said, no, Abib 15 in 2025. And then he scratched that. And then he said November 2nd of 2024, scratch that. April 21st, nope, scratch that. And now we've come full circle and we're back to April 8th.
How does he come up with these dates, out of curiosity?
He finds David C. Pack is a perpetual Bible student. He's always studying the Bible. He has even admitted during his sermons that sometimes he's up to 2 or 3 in the morning studying his Bible. There's something, or he'll jolt out of bed, wake in the middle of the night when a thought comes into his head, and he goes and studies and writes it down. And it's funny that he does that because he has warned in past videos of World to Come and books that have been retired about people being susceptible to demonic influence when their brain is tired, that students of the Bible are not supposed to be studying their Bibles because their mind is weak and open to spiritual influence. And then, you know, atheists and agnostics could just say, well, exhaustion. And he comes up with ideas. He sees pictures in the Bible. He's like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, where he's the only one who can see the patterns that nobody else could see because God is specially using him to see the patterns. And so each time he comes up with a date, it's because God led him to see it. He's the messenger of the covenant, but not anymore. He's the branch. He's all these other things in the Bible. And so God is specifically using him. Now, he does claim to be an apostle, and that's something you won't find on the rcg.org website. That's the type of thing they hide from the members, from people who are interested in joining, is that he's an apostle. Like Peter, Paul, James, Jude, John, he has the same rank as they do. He has the same responsibility as they do.
Now, in the notes, I read that David C. Pack and the eclipse, he still doesn't.
Well, the funny thing about April 8th is that it's Abib 1, which is the Hebrew month. RCG also started keeping the new moons. There's passages in the Old Testament that talk about new moon observances, right along holy days and Sabbaths. And then in the book of Zechariah, it says from one Sabbath to another, to one new moon to another, all flesh will gather before me. And so David C. Pack suddenly saw new moons and said, oh, this is something we need to observe. And so they started observing it, which is basically having a service. The problem with all of that is that God mentions new moons in the Old Testament, but he doesn't command it. He doesn't call it a Sabbath. He lists out the holy days, he lists out the Sabbath, and the new moon is listed around these things that he commands, and yet he doesn't command the new moon. And one of the things that they've done is start to observe new moons. And the interesting thing about Abib 1 this year is that they're across the northeastern central United States on April 8th, there will be a total solar eclipse. So right over Wadsworth in Cleveland will be 100% totality. Don, you and I won't even have to leave our homes to be in the path of totality, and that's an extremely rare event. And the reason this is all significant is because David C. Pack sees Abib 1 as a biblical date. He believes that all the timing lines up, but he has never once mentioned the total solar eclipse that happens to be on Abib 1, which happens to be a new moon, which happens to be happening over the campus. And I know for a fact he doesn't know about the eclipse. The city of Wadsworth does. They sent out a mailer and explained, you know, the map. They explained how to do it. Like the city of Wadsworth was really good about prepping people for that. And yet David C. Pack doesn't know it. And I find that hilarious because in my articles I refer to it as like one of the greatest secrets at headquarters. Shh, nobody wants to tell Mr. Pack that there's an eclipse, because if he knew, it would be one of the major proofs that it's right and that it's this year.
Well, I mean, he predicted that King Charles would not be crowned.
Correct. So he doesn't have a good track record of getting things correctly. Yeah, because you and I, in our last interview, we talked about King Charles in May would not be crowned, and I said, "Watch, King Charles will be crowned." And I call myself a nonprofit, non-psychic. I don't know anything. I'm just a guy who has read his Bible and follows Dave Pack, and I know that everything he says is going to be wrong. So when King Charles was crowned, it was like, oh, well, we see through a glass darkly is the excuse. So there's never a solid reason, or there's never I'm a false prophet. I'm really bad at this, so I should quit, because David C. Pack's ego won't allow it. He's made declarations about Russian President Vladimir Putin being the sixth king of Revelation. There's 5 are fallen, one is, and one is not yet come. The one is, he has gone back and forth that it's Russian President Vladimir Putin. And one of the fun things I did for the article after we spoke was that I actually wrote to the Russian consulate. So I wrote to the Russian government and sent a letter explaining to them, congratulations that your president, Mr. Vladimir Putin, will not be able to be killed because he is fulfilling God's prophecy. It must be a joyous thing to learn that your president is a king. And I wrote this whole long letter, and then David C. Pack walked it back a week or two later. And then I had to write the Russian consulate. I really wrote the Russian consulate. That's not a gag. I have it on my article. I wrote them again and saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. Oh, he's not the king. And then I made a joke about, maybe if somebody used to taste his food for him before he ate it, they should go back and do that, just for safety's sake. So I have fun with what David C. Pack does and how he teaches, because it changes all the time. He had made prophetic significance to the current war with Hamas and Israel, the Israelis. And I like to keep track of what he says. And he's like, the war won't go on past.
Oh,
And
it's like a prophecy.
well, it's just that, yeah, he knows the date is so certain that, do you think this war is going to go? Do you think God's going to allow this and that? And so I've documented those types of things. And I have a growing YouTube subscription channel, which is how people, some of the people outside of the COG, the Church of God system, find my website. So before I switch my screen again to show you some videos that kind of dovetail off of that, did you have any questions?
No, I am really curious as to about this video that you
Okay.
talked about.
Well, the website has been going on for it's coming up on 2 years now. And because I've been able to document David C. Pack, I have a history. I mean, I really see myself as a scribe. I kind of call my website a whistleblower. It's to help facilitate people that are in Restored so that they can see that they're not crazy. And the greatest compliment I get from people who resign from the Restored Church of God is like, they say, I didn't read anything on your website that I didn't already know. And that to me is a great compliment. I'm not trying to come up with new ideas. I'm trying to have a perspective that feels familiar for current members so they can go, wow, I'm not crazy. I'm not stupid. Other people feel the same way I do. And so that's a great compliment. And because I've been documenting what, David C. Pack says, I have a couple of playlists on my YouTube channel. I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. So we have from February of 2023, center face. Yeah, February 2023. So David C. Pack said this, and I have a playlist called If More Time, because one of the things he loves to do is say, if I had more time, I do this, that, and the other. I'm going to play 2 clips, one from February and one from March of 2023, 1 year ago now.
Okay.
None of these things have happened. Oh, I have to, you want to hear it.
I can make a strong case for Tishri, but nowhere near as strong as Abib. So look, I'm just trying to illustrate a point. Speaking rhetorically in a just supposed sense, I can walk you through some things. I will wait till next year, and I don't believe that that's possible. I believe there are metrics that simply block that, and you've heard them. I'm not a hypocrite. I can't stand up here and undo what I said in the last message, or what I've said several times in this message about how short it has to be. But we have plans for the future. I've determined I'm going to be found so doing. It won't be the series anymore. All of our men here think this way. You know, I'm torn terribly a lot, but I have to do this. I saw, you know, I've missed coworker letters. I'd pick them back up. I'd be back in the television studio. I'll be speaking on other subjects more often. If I had to go longer, this is what I would do. I've got to fix some literature. I'd have to do that. I would do that, and the other men around here would too. We have to keep planning. We can't just go inside a shell like we're clams and wait it out. We have to live our lives. So I'm going to be found so doing. Of course I'm watching. That isn't what it's talking about. The Greek is poieo. It's found being a wise and faithful servant. You want to be found being a good and faithful servant. Hopefully I'm good and you're also wise. So I understand that, and I have plans. I hope I don't get to carry out almost any of them.
And he got his wish because he did not carry out any of them. He didn't start the world to come. His last brother and co-worker letter was in May of 2023. And actually recently RCG has thrown the white flag on that and started putting out an email to their subscribers so that they could chase after the pennies that come in envelopes. And none of the things in that video that David C. Pack just said happened. Did you have any thoughts on that, Don Blue?
It's just the same thing over and over again, but he just rewords it.
Yes, that's what he does. He has a certain style, and that's why I've been able to categorize, because I've been documenting him for so long, I can categorize the type of things he says. Nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever understood this. I'm the only one. Nobody's preached to more people than me, not even Paul. I mean, I have all these things documented. You know, Jesus Christ is absolutely going to return on God's authority. He'll claim God's name, making himself a blasphemer and a liar. And now that's documented. And so the older videos are now new again, because this next one from March of 2023, also for people watching, none of this happened.
There's just no arguing, no getting out of all of this. Is, you know, if God picked somebody else, then maybe we'd have done it faster. But in the end, it became terribly simple. We had another year, boy, I would go big with this. I'd see if I could rattle the cages. If we did have another year, I would do everything in my power to get people in the splinters to take a look at this. And I would change the literature, and we'd get after it. I know he comes with a thief, and that would change it. But that's what I would do. If we did have another year, I mean, we've got plans. We're not enacting any of them.
Boy, you got that right too. So in some ways, Dave's a prophet when he says we're not doing anything. So it's funny in the first clip where he talked about, I'm not a hypocrite. I can't come up here and change what I said last week. I mean, he does that all the time. The series is not over. They just did part 497 yesterday, where he changed the picture again from the week before. They haven't fixed the literature. They haven't done anything. So the thing about the literature is it's almost a bait and switch for people outside the Restored Church of God. When they come into the church, then they learn what they really teach. And that's kind of what the website EXRCG does. That's what I like to do, is let people know. I don't make stuff up. I just report what the man said. I play his clips. I quote him accurately. I provide timestamps if people want to fact check me. It's more of a warning for people who want to learn about the Restored Church of God. Is this a legitimate place? Is this something that I want to do before they decide to join there? And so I'm trying to give people an informed decision.
One of the things that I feel through the website, and more over the course of, you know, a year to now, when you look at it, if I was a member, if I was in the church, even on the outside, you start to build all of this up. It's like a storyline, a timeline. And it just, the way he changes words on things and the stories, after a while, I'm kind of like, I'm getting confused. You know, it's like, wait, didn't this already happen, but a different way? But then he just keeps going and it kind of wipes it out. It's like a very good narcissistic skill. And I see that this website is very beneficial for those inside and outside. because it does document all of this. And now that I see it again, the clips, it's clear as day. He just is very charismatic how he rewords everything.
Yeah, and if you want to call David C. Pack a skilled speaker, I could say he's skilled at manipulating his own words, changing his own words, gaslighting people. There's a lot of mind control tactics going on with coercion and telling you something you know is absolutely false, but saying it to you as a fact. Some of the things I reported on is where he's changed the second Passover from IR 14 to IR 15. He changed the first Passover from ABIB 14, ABIB 15, and just talks about it as if it's a fact. And it's not true. And yet the people in the audience, like you said, I hear a lot of people say they're confused, they get worried, they know that the wise will understand, but the wicked will not understand. They're not close to God. David C. Pack tells people, if you don't understand, you're not close to God. He's not working with you. So there's an inherent fear of, oh no, I don't understand this. It's confusing. And so people just blindly just accept whatever he says. And that creates this codependent structure of he can say whatever he wants. People will just buy it and go, okay. They'll pretend with each other that they understand it, or some people won't even talk about it, or greater numbers in Restored Church of God don't even listen to him anymore. And everybody has a different coping mechanism.
Now, you said you have a clip on him doing something in regards to a death threat.
Yes. So
I have not seen this, so
no, you haven't
I'm
seen
a little
it.
curious.
I was saving this for you, Don. It's on my website. It's on exrcg.org, and it's also on my YouTube channel. So this was just 2 weeks ago. And listen, so like if you can see that when we talked about the numbers on the table, on the left side, you can see the number 1. He just removed during this part, that was a 1-year kingdom. He swapped it out with a 4-year kingdom. So you've got a 4, 100, and 1,000. And then the 1,000 is what people know as the millennium. So Bible students, when you hear the millennium, it's what Herbert W. Armstrong taught. It goes all the way back. So many Christians know the millennium, which is the 1,000, and all these glasses are like representing into eternity. So that's what those numbers are.
Okay.
So this is David C. Pack issuing a death threat.
Well, you get all the way down to verse 10. The book sealed till the time of the end. So that I don't see how you can have an Elijah period before this. We got wicked people who attend with us. And they'll send this note out. And as I like to say, they're dead people walking. Because God isn't going to hold people back for 4 years and put them to death. They're going to die quickly. I can name some names. So I realize this message is going to get out. And it's going to probably cause some trouble.
I'm sorry. This clip to me is he's issuing a death threat on God's behalf. He's talking about the wicked people in the Restored Church of God. Let's call the leakers who feed me and other people these sermons. Now, if his sermon is the gospel, which is the good news of the kingdom of God, and Jesus said, go throughout the world and preach the gospel as a witness to all nations, and then the end shall come, how is it wicked for people to let the gospel go out publicly? It's because he knows it's not the gospel, and he knows this is all embarrassing. So, Don Blue, what do you think of that?
Oh my. Okay. Well, trying to be professional and not laugh at it, but I mean, we're going on 2 years of this, and the fact that he says that, it's kind of like, yes, he's a prophet, but he can name some names, but he won't. It's kind of like, who gives you the right to make that assumption or that idea? And is it just something that he wishes personally would happen? Or is he using God as the excuse that it's going to happen and those people deserve to?
I like to give him the benefit of the doubt, despite knowing that he's a blaspheming, hypocritical liar who teaches Antichrist theology. That all being said, I don't think he wishes it. I think he's warning people who are his enemies, his personal enemies, David C. Pack's personal enemies, therefore God's enemies. If you're David C. Pack's enemy, you're God's enemy, and God will kill you. And so he's issuing that threat and letting people know you're going to die and God is going to kill you. Now, when he said, I want to play this a little bit again and then stop it again.
Well, you get all the way down to verse 10. The
He's-
book sealed till the time.
He's using the Bible.
I don't see how you can have an Elijah period before this.
He's Elijah,
We got wicked people who attend with us,
the leakers.
and they'll send this note out. And as I like to say, they're dead people walking.
The people who leak this information out of the Restored Church of God are dead people walking.
So that doesn't include me.
Not yet, Don Blue.
Not even going to hold people back for 4 years and put them to death. They're going to die quickly.
They're going to die quickly. And I would imagine by assumption could be people like me, but.
Some names.
Now, here's the thing though.
Yeah.
Why would he still allow these leakers that he feels that are unholy in his church still giving money if they're going to die?
He
Why
doesn't know
doesn't
who
he
they
just kick
are.
them out?
He doesn't know who they are. He
He
doesn't
said
know
he
who
can
they are.
name some names.
That's right. Who? That's my question. I wrote an article and I told Brad Schleifer, who's the #2 guy over the Restored Church of God. He's the guy running the show, really. Dave is just the figurehead and the occupier of everybody's Sabbath. He's a human. David C. Pack is now a human idol in the Restored Church of God, which I call the Restored Church of another God. I wrote in my article, hey, Brad, I'll donate $100 to your failing organization if you let me know what names Dave is talking about. Now, I don't, is he thinking about me, that wicked devil, Mark Sabrion, who's got the hate website going? Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to presume that Dave thinks about me in that way. But when he says I can name some names, it's like, well, who? Who is David C. Pack condemning to death on God's behalf on his Sabbath, speaking on God's authority? There's a certain level of responsibility for all ministers who preach in God's name. If you preach in God's name presumptuously, if you do it irreverently, which he's known to do, that's called blaspheming. But you also break the commandments of taking the Lord's name in vain by declaring in God's name, XYZ will happen, and I know, or God gave me this information, and then he changes it a week later. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. So he's blaspheming, and he's lying, and he's taking the Lord's name in vain. So that's kind of who David C. Pack is with the Restored Church of God.
I mean, he's the clarion call. I mean, just a bunch of other things that we've experienced. I'm not shocked. I think
death threats don't faze Don Blue anymore.
No, I think those that, have left the church, are mending, they're healing, they're doing the best that they can. Your site, at least when you're questioning something, you're able to go back and look and be like, okay, I was feeling this. I wasn't crazy. I think the saddest thing of all is the emotional roller coaster that he puts the members through. Because if you're fully invested in this, and there's a lot of people who are like, I don't understand why these members are still there. Don't they just, it's a lot of PTSD, emotional baggage. And some of these people have been with this organization their whole life. They don't know anything else. And to be told that if you go on the outside, you'll never be able to come back. And
you're going to die. God's going to
like a fire.
Yeah.
So I think that it is extremely sad, and I hope that a lot of people will be able to see this if they think about joining or they're thinking about leaving. Now, we'll be going into a part 2 here because there is some other updates in regards to ministry leaving, members leaving, which to me is kind of a big deal, especially to do with finances. So I hope you guys liked this part. We do have more. We're trying to space it out for you. Again, please make sure you go to the website, and we'll make sure that we post all the links that you can go to. And again, thank you, Mark. I will get together with you for the second part. Until next time, have a great day.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.